Good afternoon, everybody. If we can get settled down so we can get started. I'm David Pumphrey. I'm a co-director and senior fellow for the Energy and National Security Program here at CSIS, and it's really a great pleasure to be able to moderate this discussion. Dr. Yufeng will be doing the major presentation on China's energy outlook. This is work the Energy Research Institute, which is the leading energy research institute in China, has just published, and it's actually, as he was just telling me, the first energy outlook in a comprehensive way for China. So we've seen many different sets of projections that have come out by different sources, but I think this is the first time that there's an actual publication that is designed to look like and match the things that come out by the IEA, by the EIA, and other institutions. So it's really a great pleasure to have him here. He is traveling with a delegation that had decided they would rather listen than perhaps to participate in the discussion. But I would like to recognize Director General Wenke, the head of the Energy Research Institute, who is here as well. So if you're ready, why don't we go ahead and you can get started.
Okay, good afternoon. It's my great pleasure to be here today on behalf of our Director Wenke and our Energy Research Institute, and briefly introduce about our China Energy Outlook. And because this is the first time for us to release this kind of publication. So we experienced nearly 3 years for this book. Firstly, I would like to introduce some background about this publication. And we, many publication, open publication, in fact support our this work, including from the international energy agencies publications and other countries, and inside our countries very valuable books. And another support is from our internal reports. And in recent years for ERI, another work is we need to support our government to do some working papers, for example, and totally we have 7 kind of this kind of internal report. And this kind of report, in fact, is very important for us to form our this outlook. And following, I would like to introduce in this outlook. Because this time is the first time, and very nice is to our 12th five-year plans period. So this time we mainly identify and very details for our 12th five-year plans. So in this book, we totally use the 6 kind of modeling works. And all of these models is developed by ourselves. After all, we studied from the IEA, from ERA, and etc. international organizations. The following I would like to introduce is nearly 5 years, in fact, we have different research projects and supported by the Energy Foundation, for example, by our National Energy Administration and NDRC and etc. All of these kind of research reports, in fact, very effectively supported our works. And this book is very heavy. Totally is 715 pages included. So it's very heavy, sorry. And now we are translating it into the English version. Perhaps 3 months later, we will have an English version. And we made it into a CD and release it secondly. But we will update some data and some views. In this outlook, we include 5 parts, in fact. The very important is our China outlook, in fact. We call it China and the economic outlook. The second part is global outlook. Although we call it China and the outlook, but in fact, many pages is about the globally issues, because for China, not only governments, but also the market, we need to clearly understand how about China's changes, how about the world is changing, what happened. So the global outlook is, from our side, we analyzed the energy market, the global market is changing. There is a very special part is outlook reviews, because this is the first time for us. So we need to study presently outlooks in from different organizations, especially from the International Energy Agency and the Energy Information Administration, for example. This is very typical, very important 2 organizations. So from us, we need to study and review and what about the data, from the data to the views and the modeling process. So this part is very important too. The final 2 is the policies and the situations. This is a short term for us. Short term is tweaking some situations, changes, market changes, and we select some very hot topics and to analyze how about happened and what about the real situations. The policies is very important, especially from the China side, because we for China, we are now experiencing a very important period now. So any policies from our government, whether or not have a positive or negative impact on our market or the global market, is very, very crucial. Here today, because it's too heavy, so I can only show the main conclusions and some suggestions to our government. So this is just summarized from this book. And the complete presently is the Chinese versions. So after this presentation, I will send this slide to everyone. And you also can visit our website, can download the summarized, it's a bilingual version. The first conclusion I would like to say is for the China's economic and the economic situations, the very important characteristics is we use the 2 words, one deceleration and the transformation. This means our economy is experience these 2 very, very important processes, and not only from the demand structure, but also other very important industry sectors, especially, for example, the manufacturers. We are now experiencing, the whole society is experiencing the transformation, economic transformation. And this transformation will greatly impact our energy demand and supply. The second conclusion I would like to is we have to see for China today we still face very serious challenges in the energy field and the economies. So the very important is, for example, from the coal industry, for example, because everyone knows China is heavily dependent on the coal. This is absolutely nearly one country in the world, because China is big, not like other countries, for example, Australia, South Africa, although they are very similar, it's a great percentage of the coal in the energy mix. But China is different, is our absolute amount of the coal consumption is too large. So for us, coal everyone know, today, although have some clean coal technologies, but the whole situations in China, the coal consumption already gave us many environmental ecosystem problems, and very serious now still. But perhaps everyone know, speak why China can use other fuels. In fact, this is a very difficult question for us. We have no some other selections, in fact. Although we do a lot of works in the renewable energies, some other clean energies, and so on. But coal still is the dominant fuels today in China. The second is the oil. Everyone knows oil, our dependence is very higher and higher. And in the near fields, many international institutions estimate China will exceed United States, will become the largest import country. This is a real situation, we agree. So this is the second, for us, the challenge. The third one is the natural gas. Although natural gas is a kind of fossil fuels, but it's relatively clean than coal. But for China, comparing with our populations, it's a very shortage of natural gas. So this is another challenge, because in the near fields, in the fields even, with the development of our whole society, our everyone's life is more and more higher, and with the urbanization process, and our demand for the natural gas must be very high. So this is another very important challenge. The final one is in the electricity. In fact, for the electricity, in fact, when we talk about electricity in China, we have to, in fact, talk about the coal with the electricity, because our electricity mainly from the coal. So the coal market and the electricity market is contradicted always. Everyone knows, especially from upstream to the downstreams, the price, the cost, transformed. This is still needed to solve in the fields. So for China, we find out in the near fields, even long term, we still face very serious issues in the energy market. The third conclusion I would like to introduce is the global market differentiation. This is from our global outlook. Today's market in the world, everyone knows, we have three big traditional market. It's the North America, and Europe, and Asia Pacific. And this is all from the consumption side to divide this. But today, this three market changes greatly, everyone knows, especially for the United States, because the shale gas revolution process already gave many influences, including China's. Yeah. So this is a very important conclusion. The following is we think the oil security, because this is always the hot topic. The oil security with the just the last slide already is shifting to the Asia, because for Asia, everyone know, including Japan, South Korea, and other countries, mainly energy-consuming countries. And all of these kind of countries, especially for China and India, and we are sort of the traditional fossil fuels. And so, especially oil, in fact. So the oil security on behalf of the energy security in the world already began to shift to the Asia-Pacific regions, especially to the China, in fact. So this is another very important conclusion. The following one is about the technology and the low-carbon economy relations. We always know the technologies is very crucial for the fields, climate change mitigations. Now, from the internationally, international topic, they always have two, everyone know. One is the climate change, another is the energy security. We think presently, decide these two very important topic is, one is the, we think from the technology side is the electric vehicles and the CSIS. The electric vehicles is in fact high related with our fields, oil securities. Everyone know. Once this kind of technology can be cost economics, for example, it can be used large scales in the market. We can very effectively substitute the oil. But now, this technology is not the electric vehicles itself, but also the battery, in fact. So in this outlook, we have, at least inside our China market, we have a very detailed survey in this book about the battery, including the main countries. We find out we cannot find any hopes from near fields. This kind of technology can be largely scales to be used in the transportation. So this is very important. The second is the CSIS. Everyone knows CSIS is another very, very important technology. But now, and it's mainly used, in fact, in the coal power generation field, I think. So for China, it's very crucial because China mainly the coal power generation. It depends on the coal power generation. But the CSIS, everyone knows, it's not like other technologies. We can consider every technology revolution in the history. It must be very, very economic, very cheap. But the CSIS presently is just we need invest the excess waste, I mean, not mainly for the coal power generation fields. So this is another very, very crucial for China. So in the future, perhaps, in the climate change, in solve the climate change problem, for example, if the carbon tax, for example, internationally can be implemented, CSIS perhaps can be used. So this is still another uncertainty, is very, very important. The sixth conclusion is we would like to introduce is cell gas revolution. I just already referred to this topic. So this topic now is very hot in the world and in China. Although it happened in the United States, but in fact it's very good, widely influenced, deeply influenced every country now, especially for China. And here I just would like to introduce is we found out this revolution will widely will make the United States and China separated from the because for the United States they have very rich energy, not only in fact shale gas, but also oil in fact. But China now mainly still import very greatly increased. Especially a specific difference is in the near fields, the United States can replace the traditional coal-fired power generation plants use the gas, but China cannot. This means in the fields, in the climate change fields, and China cannot, like United States, have to still emission, a large emissions, I mean. But the United States perhaps can prevent these situations. So in the fields, for China, this will face very great challenge. The second I would like is the global energy governance reform. This time, for our trip, the main objective is about this topic, in fact. We already visited from Europe to the UK and to the United States. Every day now we are talking about this. But now, why we need the global energy governance? It's very important is many experts think presently, for example, the IEA is set up in the 1970s. It's too old. And now the market, global market is changing. So especially focused on China, like this kind of BRICS countries and main developing countries, already is changing the order of the energy consumption, global energy consumption. So this means, like China, India, this kind of country, we should involve in the global energy governance. We are now studying these topics. International, we have a co-project with the Imperial College from the UK. Although we have very clear conclusion now, but we already find out this is a very important topic in the field. And we think the very important is we need to find out the common concerns of the involved countries in the field. This is very difficult. Just like the UNFCCC, for example, they have the specific top objective is for the climate change. And for IEA, it's to the oil stocks to prevent the oil interruption, supply interruption. And OPEC is in order to make the oil price at the stable levels. For presently, so we need to find out the common concerns, both from the developing countries and the developed countries. The eighth conclusion is about the oil price. It's a very, very important. Recent years we are discussing about whether or not the financial factors is greatly impacted the oil price, or is the reason of the oil price higher. We found out The financial factors, especially in 2008, the financial crisis process, really have the impact on the oil price. But decide the oil price is mainly still the fundamentals and the demand and supply relations. But financial factors, even including some other factors, the political factors, for example, in fact, in the short term, perhaps, will impact the oil market. And in fact, indirectly impact the oil demand and supply relations, the fundamentals. So we think financial factors, however, is indirect factors to the oil market. But now, even following 5 years or 3 years, because the global economic situation is very weak, so this function, I believe, will be very limited in the following 3 or 5 years. But after 5 years, for example, the global economy will be recovery process, and this kind of factors will have functional. The ninth conclusion is we always, because today is a globalization, it's a very globalization. So China, especially for China, is a very, very large country because we cannot leave the world. But there's a fact we must concern is, for the developed countries and the developing countries, we find out now they face different situations. For the developing countries, for example, from the globally, internationally issues for the energy security, global environment and climate change, and other international geopolitical factors, it's different. For example, for the energy security, many developing countries is mainly the supply, secure supply. But for the developed country, perhaps more high levels demand. So very important is in the environment and the climate change fields. For developing country, they must have double objectives. This means we have to concern not only climate change, but also the local environment pollution solutions. This local pollution is still very, very serious and need higher cost. But the developed countries, relatively, this is not very high. Here is a picture I would like to show is, for example, for China, especially for our northwest regions, because perhaps everyone know, even today, I think, in the northwest, because my homeland is in Mongolia. And every year we have to experience sandstorms, for example, and smogs, especially last winter and this spring. The smogs is very serious, everyone know. And the reason is, no doubt, it's high related with our energy consumption, energy development, and our economic development process. But this is our have to face. This cost, I believe, will be very high in the fields. So this is different. Here I just selected 10 conclusions from this whole book. We have a summarized summary in this book, and everyone can download in our website. There are 12 conclusions in the summary. I just selected very important. The following I would like to, for our China, I need to communicate with everyone present. And for China, we must do a lot of work to change presently situations, change our policies. The first is the adjustment, I call it. It's a demand-oriented energy management system. From the institution side, we must reform. Just these days, in fact, everyone knows perhaps we are experiencing the government body reforms, and our National Energy Administration is experiencing a merger process, but still need a lot of work, I believe. Here we put forward a proposal is we must pay more attention to the demand side, not only supply side, because traditionally for China government, energy management mainly in the supply side. This is highly related with our highly planning system, planning economy system related. So for the energy administration or past departments, the main task is to secure the supply. But now, everyone knows, in fact, if we can do a lot, we must do a lot of work from the demand side. So this is a very important session for our government. Although this time's reform still not very very deep, but in the field, sooner or later, I believe, we must merge the supply side and the demand side. The second changes we need to do is we must strengthen international cooperation and encourage more energy sources. And in fact, I just already referred to this topic in just introductions. This is more important for China. Everyone knows we are a Chinese language country. It's very difficult for us from the culture, from the education, from every angle or side. It's relatively difficult for us to communicate with other countries, I think. But now, today, I believe it's more and more, this situation is changing, I think, because we always think communication is very important for the understanding each other and the collaborations. Many misunderstandings, in fact, just we have no very effective communication, just this very simple reason, even from the political levels or some more high levels, yeah. So for our government, we already pay much attention, already very serious for this field works. The third change for us, we need we must change the concepts even from the traditional supply. This is a very specific topic for inside our energy market. Because traditionally, everyone knows we transport the coal from the west to the east, from the north to south. This is a very, very high cost, everyone knows, and very busy for our transportation. And finally, it's all of is the cost. Now we must we put forward is our views is we need more effectively use the international market, even the core market. We encourage here to import more coal, especially for our southeast coastlines, because for China, everyone in our southeast coastlines we include nine provinces, and these provinces relatively is high life levels and more developed. These regions can stand more high energy price. So this is a more practical sessions for our government. Another adjustment from the strategic side, we must make the transition to diverse and low carbon energy sources. This means we must change our presently developed model. Although this process is very difficult, very complicated, but now, not only in domestic, but also the international market already push us to do this work. We have to do this work. And our government already lowered our GDP objective from the past 8, even 9, to the 7%. I don't know. So this is very, very important. Here I would like to know introduce is for the low carbon energy economics. It's very important for China because developed low carbon economy for us, in fact, meanwhile can solve our local environment problem. So this is a very effective economic model for China. The fifth I would like to introduce is a specific topic is about for China. Is a developing country. For our works, we are the researchers. Research works. For the developing countries, I don't know perhaps these days especially. When we visited different think tanks and some high levels officials and some experts, a common topic is from the international we concern about the transparency, the data transparency. This topic is very, very important. It's our works, in fact. And I remembered 10 years ago, for example, for our research institute, we mainly depend on the international models. We just directly use. But many, many problems. And so many years passed. We already have many, many understandings. But for the international models, we need study. So these years, we do a lot of works from very lower levels to develop our own models and analysis system. So this book, in fact, another signal is we already set up our China's own energy model system, the 6 models from our based monthly data to the mid-long term to 2050. We include the 6 system. This is very important, we think, because any country have their own characteristics, especially for China. China's development process is very, very special, everyone knows. The final is for the energy governance, global energy governance. We are now studying this topic I just already referred. But now here I would like to introduce, we have possible alternatives. For example, for our government, earlier, we consider whether or not we can build a kind of mechanism based on the G20. But now, we are still have many, many different views around this topic we are studying. And the second, for example, can we, based on the IEA and to enlarge the scales, for example, now IEA already put forward a mechanism, we call it partnership plan or association plan. And it will include another 7 countries, developing countries, including BRICS, and involved in the IEA's activities. And whether or not this kind of model is is effective in the field. The third is we have a REF, but the REF is too weak presently now. And how to strengthen this? Because although it's very weak, but it's absolutely international energy organization now. But it's too weak. It's very difficult. Another choice is the energy chart secretaries. It's possible, but energy chart secretaries is different objectives. Everyone know. Cannot perhaps include the international, for example, the IA's functions. The final selection is, can we build a new one? This is more complicated, perhaps. So in the field, in this topic, we perhaps need to identify more clear the objective I just referred now. Yeah. If we have no very clear objective, it's very difficult for this works. Because, for example, the climate change issues, we can resort to the UNFCCC. It's an absolute United Nations and the United Nations organizations mechanism. But everyone knows the climate change issues we already experienced nearly 20 years, I think. I myself think, at least, it's a very low efficiency. This means we try to include all countries, for example, but perhaps it's very difficult. So this is not only this is I believe in the field it's a very hot, very long-term topic we need to face. So today I just gave everyone a very simply, summarized presentation, and welcome any comments and questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yang. That was a very rich presentation, and I think has probably created a lot of questions. I know I had many, but I don't want to dominate the field here. But one question that has been discussed for the past 5 years as the U.S. is re-engaged in the climate negotiations process is, when will China reach a peak in terms of its greenhouse gas emissions, and when is it likely that that peak might be reached? I think you described some of the strategies that are being put in place in terms of the efficiency, the shift to non-fossil energy, but there's this underlying trend line that will keep pulling the demand for fossil fuels up. So did the outlook try to address that question?
Thank you. Very important issues. For this outlook, it's an economic situations analysis outlook. We already have some analysis for this topic, because in fact, for China, everyone know, although we have very direct for the emission reductions, for example, several years ago. But in fact, we already have this kind of policies. We call it Chinese is 节能减排 and energy conservation and emission reductions. This is a very, very important policies already implemented several years ago. During our 11th 5-year period, we already I think, successfully implemented these policies. And although at that period we didn't calculate how much carbon dioxide already be reduced, but we calculated other pollutants, you know, and our several organizations I remembered we have estimation calculation, and during the 11th period, how much carbon or meanwhile, I mean, already be reduced. In this book, we didn't calculate the carbon dioxide because from this time still is from our traditional statistic, engine statistic, the structure, you know, the engine balance sheet we based on. Because in our engine balance table, there's no the carbon dioxide, these items. But this work already do. It's very easy for us because just in fact the transfer factors is everyone know because we already calculated how much energy can be reduced. Yeah, and another policy is now, especially from last year, everyone know perhaps know it's very important is we call Chinese is 总量控制, is the total energy consumption ceilings policies, limits the total amount ceilings. This is more powerful, I myself think, in the fields, because from the last year, we already regulated this policy, not only from the, we call it a relative index. This means for the past years, we take this top policy is the energy consumption per GDP amount. But now we already have the absolute amount limits, and we decided divided into different provinces now. So this tool is very important. Other countermeasures include, for example, we greatly develop the renewable energies, for example, and then more clean energies. And then for China, because it's a very big market for China's market. So this is my question, my answer. Yeah.
So I'll open the floor. Just a few ground rules, which probably many of you are familiar with. If you can identify yourself and your affiliation, wait for a microphone, and then in asking a question, if it's a comment, if you can figure out how to make it a question at the end of it, that would be quite helpful. So do we have anyone who would like to pose a question to Dr. Yang? Okay, we have one over here on the right.
Hi, this is Ayaga Jones from Energy Information Administration. About that energy imports, that recommendation number 3 about coal imports you mentioned. I just, two-part of question. First, can you clarify to what extent would you like to see coal imports to be? For example, right now the coal imports account for about 5–6% of the domestic consumption. And to what extent would you like to see that increase to? And the second part of the question is, what kind of reaction have you received from the coal industry and from the local government in coal-rich regions such as in Mongolia and Xinjiang? And to what extent do you expect this to be adopted by policymakers?
Thank you. It's very important. And the coal import issues, I here would like to tell everyone is, presently at least, I just already referred is the following 3 or 5 years, because the global economy is not very hot. And so this means, especially in the Asia-Pacific regions, the coal market is not very tight. And this means the price have some, the price is very good, I think. So we encourage just by this kind of considerations. Because China we already, for coal market, it's already international market. For China government, in fact, have no this kind of some policies to limit or encourage. It's no use. It's already market oriented. But we here encourage means we just suggest the local traders, for example, local production mines, for example, they need analyze the local market here. This is the first question. The secondly, from the local provinces level, because recent years, although China still is the biggest energy production country, but in fact, it's distributed very unbalanced. It's mainly intensified in the west. For example, we call it Jingshanmen. It's Shanxi province, Inner Mongolia province, west of Inner Mongolia province, and the Shanxi province. And this is our, I think, golden regions for the coal production. And another region is the Xinjiang province. Xinjiang province is the fields, but the long distance, everyone know. So although now from the different levels, from the business, from the government, from different intentions, we try to, especially for Xinjiang province, I means how to transport it, how to change it into other fuels. For example, liquefied and gasifications for the coal. All this kind of project is processing. But for the coal, because my undergraduate period, I studied coal, mining. I'm very clear about this. It's too difficult to try to transform it. It's very difficult, I think. So I myself view is China should utilize very effectively this kind of very important fuels. There's another conception is for China, everyone knows perhaps the coal is abundant. Even some, especially for the coal productions companies, they think 100 years, no problem. But I myself think this is a mistake. It's more and more the resources is limited, and the ecosystem problems and pollutions is more and more serious. This is, yeah.
Ken Meyercord, World Docs. Just 8 years ago, the EIA was predicting that global oil production in 2020 would be around 120 million barrels per day. Now they're predicting about 93 million barrels per day. Tremendous revision in just 8 years, which is not that much more than is being produced today. I wondered whether you are familiar with the theory of peak oil and whether you've looked at the predictions of non-governmental groups like the Association for the Study of Peak Oil, whose predictions over the last decade have tended to be more accurate than either the IEA or the EIA.
We really, from government to the research institutions and other companies even, I believe recent 5 years have different researchers about this. And, but different results, I believe. From the companies, for example, they always think it's no problem. This time is will have a long time. But for the researchers, perhaps it's a no. But I here would like to introduce is for China, because now we are still experience the urbanization process. This means cannot this kind of the trend of the automobiles industry develop is very difficult to be limited. This means our cars, buses, and different transportation tools will increase definitely in the fields. So the oil consumption will still increase. There's no doubt, I think. But because many problems we face, so from the government, we have to have some policies to adjust this kind of development process. For example, we always discuss what kind of transportation models for China should have. We cannot study the United States, for example. We need to study from Japan, from Europe, and so on. Especially for the central cities, for example, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, this kind of cities, because the pollution is very serious, especially this year's smogs, you know. And so our government already have do a lot of works now, and the local government have released some local policies, and from the automobile sales to the transport itself, already have do a lot of works, I think. So when will the peak for the oil? For the China's oil consumption, I cannot tell you. It's very difficult. In fact, perhaps our institute have some research this work. Perhaps 2020 or 2030 is different. But I myself think around perhaps before the 2030. I think.
Peter Gross from EIA, our Energy Information Administration. You talked about the industrial sector as obviously being important in terms of energy demand, and you mentioned, I think in the beginning of your talk, something about the energy-intensive industries restructuring or changing, going through some kind of evolution. I could see perhaps the steel industry, the aluminum industry, those industries which have too much capacity now in China, consolidating, maybe gaining some efficiency that way. But at the same time, I'm having a hard time imagining the refining industry or the chemical industry slowing down, and not, I would see them as growing. I'm just curious as to what you really see as the evolution of those energy-intensive industries.
This is very, very important, I think, this topic, because our government, we have, in fact, indicator, you know, index is the energy intensity, you know, and under this indicator, we divide it into different industry sectors, and we have a very detailed analysis about this. Because now, you know, after the 2008 financial crisis process, globally we are experiencing the industry adjustment, in fact, and the restructuring process. For China itself, it's very, perhaps more serious, I think, because we always depend, our economy is always depend on the investment, import, and consumption, you know. But now our import is very weak. I will know it, perhaps. although we do a lot of works, but this kind of situation cannot be changed. And the global, internationally, and the domestic, we have to experience this transformation process. And this is why our government set the GDP growth rate objective, lower it to the 7%. This is why, yeah. Although some local governments still have very active to develop local economy, but because there's no market, they face two problems. One is the international market. Some traditional, especially the manufacturing industry, have many problems. Yeah, from the domestic, in fact, especially the steel industry, chemical industry, and because our production capacity is very high now, comparing with the demand side. So this process is already become the natural process, I think. We must change this.
Rob Alameda from gcaptain.com, or a shipping news company. Just had a question regarding the amount of energy that China imports from, evolving into LNG here in the future, and oil and coal. I was wondering if China was going to look at, well, and also given the fact that shipbuilding prices are about as low as they've been in about 20 years. There's been some rumors amongst some of the China ship owners of building a huge new fleet of super tankers. And I was wondering if China had ambitions to have their own fleet of ships that were Chinese flagged to move to, as more of maybe an energy security standpoint. But while at the same time looking at the fact that shipping charter prices for ships are unprofitable amongst almost every sector right now, which frankly scares the heck out of our industry. And wondering what your perspective was on what is China going to do? That's kind of the big question where a lot of ship owners are curious about.
I think that question may dominate many sectors of the economy.
I'm not very clearly about this. Perhaps, yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, I like the fact that you're relieving our interns of walking around, so we'll take the two questions in the back, but we don't have to queue up for the microphones. But thank you. I think it is helping them.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Duval with Westinghouse. I wanted to know where you see nuclear as part of the whole mix of your energy outlook.
Yes, we have this topic in the energy outlook, no doubt. And after Japan's incidents, we changed the policies and reduced the scales, I think, even, and at least adjust the different periods development objectives. And very important is from the government. In our outlook, we analyzed the security is the crucial factors for our following years' development. And we already, from our government, we already reviewed all the projects already planned past years. So we have a specific develop, for example, scales in the fields, yeah, in the outlook.
Hello. My name is Dennis Miller. I'm with Salina Fuels Corporation. And I was very impressed with your presentation in terms of the changes that you've identified in this document. It required a lot of work to bring together the findings and come to the conclusions. But I was curious about more on the recommendation side. And for example, there's a clear identification of fossil fuel as a major source of pollution. It's also a very inefficient way to produce power. Of course, from my standpoint, we're looking at using waste biomass as a source of energy that will produce large amounts of renewable power, have no SOx emissions, no particulate emissions, and the carbon dioxide, of course, be carbon neutral. So I'm just curious, there didn't seem to be much emphasis on alternative sources of energy that would include biomass to energy using advanced gasification systems, and perhaps even looking at such things as geothermal, wave energy. And I know from my own experience, I visited a very large wind farm in northeast or northwest China, so I know there's a lot of emphasis on wind power. I was just curious what your statement might be about that.
Thank you very much. It's in fact, in our outlook, definitely we have a very detailed energy mix, and including any kind of energy items. And for China, you must understand China, because China is a very big country. And in fact, recent years, our government, our business, and even very small private companies, and we very pay much attention. I mean, any kind of energy opportunities, you know, including biomass or solar or wind or anything, because although the cost high, for example, but we have subsidies from the government. So, totally speaking, from the government, we are very serious for the substitute energy, and including the renewable energy and the new energy means. And another concept is we must remember is China is too big. We always have have a joke, for example, for our demonstration product for the new energy, for example, the technology is not very experienced. But even larger than the small countries hold this kind of technologies. So this is perhaps I speak is not very, but this is real, I mean. And we already do a lot of works, I believe. For example, our renewable energy, the wind, solar, and it's the largest market, largest production scales in the market, in the China market, I mean. And we definitely would like to use them to replace the traditional fossil fuels, but too large populations, too high energy consumptions amounts. So we still have to depend on the fossil fuels, I think, including the coal, for example. Yeah.
Okay, right here in the front, and then followed by on the side. Actually, it'd be good to know how many more questions there are, so we'll probably get, there's one in the back there. So we'll let these 3 questions be the last question. So.
Hi, Michael Ratner with Congressional Research Service. My question is, what are the hurdles facing China to utilize, infrastructure hurdles facing China to use more natural gas in its economy, both from the consumption side but also from the production side?
Yeah, good question. For China now, for the natural gas market, we really already need to develop it very quickly. But the problem is, for China gas market, it's not very much, many reasons. For example, the infrastructure just referred is not very large scales, and everyone knows perhaps it's different for China to for the gas pricing. For example, we just one project is one price. We call it project-based pricing system because we have import gas and domestic production gas. And any gas, when service to the different specific market, have different users. And we always have this kind of plan, including in our every 5 years plan, you know. But not like other countries, we have too limited natural gas resources, you know. And so, especially, it have to compete with the coal, for example, in the especially for the coal-fired, especially in the power generation field. But any gas project is generally is very large scales. You know. So for the users, for example, we must find out, for example, the power generation to support the whole project can be smoothly continued. But always case is the development because unbalanced. I just showed from the southeast coastlines provinces. They relatively have a high living levels. You can endure more high prices, for example. They can develop it. But presently, it's very difficult. We already began, in fact, to the pilot process for the Guangxi and the Guangdong, two provinces, to the market. Sooner or later, I think this is a very important process for China. Another is now the shale gas market. There's too many problems. I will not introduce more, but it's more bad, yeah. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Robert Willis with Argus Media. You've talked about recommendations for coal imports. Have you got targets or recommendations in your outlook for metallurgical coal imports and also for steel capacity or steel production? I know the National Reform Commission, the Planning and Reform Commission, has recently moved in the direction of lowering capacity. Can you sort of discuss that broadly?
Steel, okay. Still, yeah. Yes. In our outlook, in fact, we calculated the field's demand. Field's demand. The following 5 years demand for the steel sectors, you know, and now because our capacity already largely exceeded the demand market, so our government already do a lot of works, in fact, including let the large-scale companies to merge the small one and even close some very polluted, very low technologies, especially in Hebei province. We know, you perhaps know, it's a steel production province. We still have, we call it a macroeconomic adjustment, this kind of policies.
And then our final question.
Winston Chow. I'm a senior advisor at the Department of Energy in the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, and we do some work with ERI, specifically on China. And my question is a little more technical, and I want to thank that gentleman for bringing up the topic of renewable energies, which is what this question is about. So as we know, China is scaling up their solar technology or photovoltaic deployment. And the speed at which they do so can have a great impact on a lot of things there. Now, the rate of deployment is hazy because the grid integration technologies that are associated with it are still developing. So I was wondering if you, in your opinion, how quickly do you think the rate of deployment of solar photovoltaics, and I mean commissioned power plants, not really rooftop, over the next few years would be if it's kind of maxed out, the rate of deployment in gigawatts? Would it be 7 or 8 or 11? That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Just solar, it means, yeah. It's a solar presently. I will know in our China market we have a very serious problem. It's from the international market, in fact. But because the solar industry, in fact, include different scales, different levels, different kinds, and our government, in fact, from the last September, I think, do a lot of works to support our companies, to give them some very good policies, even some local government, and the objective is let them still alive, I think. This is the first. The second is we are now extend the market domestically, I think. This is the second very powerful policies now. Yeah.
Well, you had mentioned in your presentation that one of the strategies that you were looking at is increasing the communication with the rest of the world about China's energy strategies, energy policies, energy outlook. And so I wanted to thank you very much for coming today and starting that process here in Washington. So please join me in thanking Dr. Yang.